edition of the Weekend Review with E.J. Borkart.
Oh, yes, a fine read and one that I will continue later. This is the KOTC, or the Kids on the Case Our First Case, written by E.J. Borkart, which is me. If you want your old copy, you can purchase it now at lulu.com. Just search for the Kids on the Case. But you came here to hear about what happened on my blog this week. I believe you did, yes? So, this week on my blog, we had the last chapter in the rough draft of A Here, Guardian Malor. I don't know if anyone feels sad about that. I'm excited about that. It gives me an opportunity to work on new projects, and do not fear, A Here will be back better, bigger, and more improved than ever before. In the rewrite, some of you may want me to write a prequel talking about what's going on in the Arya Haven world and what leads up to this. It's going to be a part of the next story. I'm excited about that. But we're not just going to talk about it here this week. No. We will also be talking about what has happened thus far in the rebellion on Aquore. And we'll be taking a sneak peek at what happens in the chapter immediately following that. And I may very well talk about some changes I've been making to my blog. I'm always changing things, always evolving what I have on my site to try and give you guys the most that I can to accurately portray myself to you. So, let's go ahead and get started. One second. The character you saw at the very beginning of this video, that picture, that is Swift the Rabbit, a member of the Guardians. He is the Guardian of Speed, and as you can guess, he is very, very fast. Art is done by my friend Jacob Zimmerman. He does excellent work. I love everything he draws for me. Music, once again, is from the opening from Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I do not own it. It is owned by Marvel. It is a fantastic series. I highly suggest you go and check it out. So, this week in A Here, Guardian of Malor, it starts out, Lang Khan has been defeated, and the heroes basically make sure, is everyone alright? What are we going to do from here? And they round up the remaining Arya's Avum. After that, they return to the castle to have a funeral service for Dar Duo and Lang Duo, because Duo is the suffix for king in this world, and so when Lang Khan survived his father by several minutes, he became a king as well. So he's being burned with the honors of being a king because they have funeral pyres. There's a song in there that I came up with. I don't know if it's good. I'm not a songwriter. Anyway, Arya's Avum decide to make Barbo their new king. His first decision is that the Arya's Avum who are loyal to Lang Khan, because they are still loyal to Lang Khan, they should all be killed with the Gladio Prodigat, just because they aren't in control of themselves, and it would just be cruel to let them live and a danger to everyone else around them. Except for Torjad, who was never turned and started all this. He is going to live forever in the dungeons below the castle. That's his punishment. Here volunteers to be the one to do all this beheading and ending of lives because he's done it before. He doesn't feel that any of the other Arya's Avum should be forced to do this. And after that, Milton gets ready to go home. They do a whole ceremony where Laz Crit melted down the Gladio Prodigat, made it into medals for A Here, Trixie, and Milton. Trixie and Milton are going to stay. They're going to travel the world. And a new suffix is created just for them. Bow Hater. They are going to be entertainers. Jugglers, not musicians. And then, Milton goes back to his world with some artifacts because he wants to keep fighting crime with these artifacts. He thinks they can be very useful. Lost Crits lets him take his bow back. The gauntlets he used, they let him fly. Trixie's helmet that allowed her to run so fast, and a chain that another nameless artist Avum used in the fight that would bind people. Milton goes and he tells everything that's happened to the police to ask them for their permission to continue fighting crime with them. And then we find out that Barduo, because he's a king now, his son, Calcon, because he's the prince now, was playing with some royal artifacts, and he sent all the artifacts through a portal into the human world. Now that is going to set up Milton's next adventure, which I hope to write someday, possibly titled Milton Guardian of Malor. I haven't settled on a name yet, but I feel that would be fitting. So that has been what happened this week in here, Guardian of Malor. You can look forward to the audio chapter of this chapter going up on Tuesday, assuming I can get everything done. This is going to be a very busy weekend for me. But now we are going to talk about what has happened on Rebellion on Aquore.
Previously on the Rebellion on Aquore.
Previously, the story starts out with Terran, a young man who he works at the orphanage where he was raised on this planet called Aquore. It used to be a planet with a rocky core that was covered in water. They've discovered a precious resource, quarite, below the surface of the rock, and in order to harvest it efficiently, they created this satellite that siphoned all the water off of the planet and created a aquatic orbiting moon around the satellite, so they can add to or take from the water whenever they have need. That's going to be important later on in the story. Now it's a mining settlement on this planet, but you know there's all sorts of businesses and towns there. The two main miners on there is the government. They are mining for these resources, obviously for the empire that they're a part of, the human empire. And there is Daily Devices Incorporated, who they make inventions and they make devices, obviously since they're daily devices, but they're on Aquore mining this quarite to try and get the resources a little cheaper, and hopefully get more of it for their devices. Daily Devices is led by Scott. Scott is helping the rebellion that exists on the planet against the government because they feel the government is oppressive and taking advantage of them and just needs to be either gone or find a way to negotiate with them where the government will listen. Terran is also a member of this. Obadiah and John, those are some of the main characters that are part of it. And they decide that they're going to go and sabotage a government mining site. Secretly, Scott is only involved with the rebellion and guiding them to do such things as sabotaging these mining sites because he thinks it'll give him a chance to get a greater share of the quarite, which is what he's all about. He wants to slow the government down as much as possible. So they sabotage some machines, something goes wrong, their lookout is captured, and now the rebellion has to try and figure out how can we save this guy. So they come up with a rescue team, which Terran is not a part of because the risk would just be too great to the orphanage. Can you imagine what would happen to them if Terran was caught? And the rescue team are a bunch of amateurs, foolish rebels, and they get inside of the enemy base and they just cannot resist doing some damage. They attack everything they can. Well, not necessarily everything they can, but they make enough noise that they alert the guards that they're there. They get captured down in the dungeons, and only one of them manages to escape. And Terran is waiting to see how things went for the rescue party, and when he finds out that their rescue failed, he goes to Scott for help. And Scott is like, I told you guys, don't do this attack in the first place. I'm not going to help you now. And later that night, a mysterious masked man breaks into the pedestal, which is the name of the place where the government meets and where the dungeons are, wrecks up the place, takes out a lot of the enforcers, which is the soldiers of the government, and he manages to free all the prisoners. This upsets the government greatly. There's a warrant out for him. The people that he saved, they're happy. No one knows who he is, but he stops John, the leader of the rebellion, one night on his way home, and asks him, hey, I want to work with the rebellion to do more attacks like the one I did last time. I think we could take out the government together. And John's like, no, stay away from the rebellion. We don't do things like this. You're just going to end up making things worse for everyone. Masked Man goes ahead with his attack. Unfortunately, he tells John when and where, and John tells the enforcers. The enforcers are made to look silly at the mining site. They do manage to capture the Masked Man after he does a lot of damage to the equipment and the site. But he manages to escape, and they end up attacking each other, doing a lot of damage to themselves. A lot of people die, a lot more people are hurt. And the commander of these people, or of these enforcers, is demoted as a result of this. And he becomes a integral part of the story later. After this, Taran is feeling pretty good about himself until he goes to the market the next day, where he wants to get some food for the orphanage, because Obadiah, one of the local bakers, has a deal with him. Taran gets his 2-day-old bread, and Taran cuts up some wood for him to keep his fires going. Unfortunately, because of the attacks, the government has raised the taxes on everyone, and Obadiah can no longer afford to give them bread. And Taran he's devastated by this. He looks around the mining site, or not the mining site, he looks around the marketplace and sees that no one can afford to buy anything anymore. Things are just so terrible and bad. And then we find out that Taran is actually the Masked Man, the one who's been behind these attacks. He goes and confesses it to Eugene, who is the man who owns the orphanage and raised Taran, sees him as a father, or sees Taran as a son, Taran sees him as a father. And so they're trying to figure out how to get out of this mess that they're in. Eugene suggests maybe talking with Troy, who is a senator who was raised in the orphanage. He's always been sympathetic to their needs. Maybe he would be able to help. But before Taran can tell him, he finds out that Troy's opinion is the Masked Man needs to be destroyed, killed, arrested, gotten rid of at all costs. He's just a terrible person, and so Taran never actually tells him. Also, one other thing that is important for the future is Eugene borrows some money for the orphanage from a man named Frederick, who is a money loaner. But in order for the orphanage not to have to pay him back ever, Taran has to work for him as a money collector. So he has to go and collect other people's debts. That will be important. I just remembered, not this coming week, but next month. So that has been a brief look at the rebellion on Aquore. A little peek at what's going to be coming up next. Scott decides that the Masked Man could be useful and wants to work with him. And he coerces the rebellion to attack one of his mining sites to try and throw the government off. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You'll have to check out the story this week as it goes up to find out the result of that attack. And so now I want to talk about a little change I've been making. Previously, I have been writing articles weekly about advertising, picking an ad I found during the week and writing a review of it, saying what they did good, what they did bad, whether it was overall a good ad or not. And I enjoy this series. I feel it's been very, very well received, but I don't feel that I'm finding enough ads to sustain it. So I will return to that. I've been looking for ads and trying to get a good surplus of ads to pull from for these articles for the future. If you have any ads that you would like me to analyze, that you would like to suggest, leave the link in a comment section. I will definitely do an ad, any ad that anyone suggests. And also, like I said before, doing the last audio chapter over here, I don't feel that that was a very popular thing, this audio chapters, and it takes a lot of time and work to pull one of these together. Something I'm not sure I'll have a whole lot of in the future. So unless someone or people start requesting that I do an audio version of some of my stories, I think that I'm going to stop doing that for the time being, and instead on Tuesdays and Thursdays I will be posting, at least attempting to post, examples of work that I've done for advertising in the past for class projects or new projects working on my own. I want to get a portfolio of my work up on my blog that anyone can check out and see for potential employers. And I think after I get caught up with everything I've done in the past, that I'll switch back to uploading a new something I've worked on each Tuesday and doing an article on Thursdays. Again, I don't know if that I'll have enough time to do all of this. I really, really want to, but I have to see where I am at that point in the future. So thank you for listening to me ramble on about my stories, my blog, and everything I'm thinking about changing. This has been the Weekend Review. Thank you once again for listening. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment section below. I will answer them in one of these videos. So that's about it. I want you guys all to remember that it might be love that makes the world go round, but it's stories that makes the trip worthwhile. You guys all have a great week. Bye.